Greetings, happy Easter, and welcome to Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation. To our members, friends, and all of you who are watching today on our YouTube channel. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are always welcome here. I'm the Reverend Robin Landerman Zucker, minister of this congregation, and I will be hosting our virtual recorded service today with our music director, Gabriel Hernandez, and with our accompanist, Rebecca Prizznick, who was kind enough to create a wonderful backtrack for us today to use in our service. If you'd like to participate more fully in the service, please pause this video and go to our website, beaconuu.com, where you can download an order of service that includes hymn lyrics and unison readings. This congregation is spiritually open and intentionally inclusive. Our members and friends bring many interests, theologies, and viewpoints. Here you can trust you will find a common desire for meaningful community and spiritual growth and for relevant religious exploration. Membership in our congregation is open to anyone who chooses to walk with us in spirit and in the search for truth. As I light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, lighting it with Unitarians all over the world today, I'd like to ask you to light your candle or chalice at home and join me in the unison words in the order of service. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fire of our interconnection wherever we go. We are Beacon, always connected. I have some opening words for us today. My sermon today is about faith. It is Easter, and faith is something that Unitarian Universalists grapple with anyway, but during this week, a week that included Passover and Easter, it's a great topic to dive into. So my opening words are by Sophia Lyon-Foss, who was a pioneer in religious education in our denomination, and it's a reading called "It Matters What We Believe." Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. And other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into deeper and wider sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities. And other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. And other beliefs are like gateways that are open to vistas of exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. And other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. And other beliefs are pliable, like a young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. And now Gabe will be leading us in some congregational singing. Gabe?
Hello. If you'll please rise and body your spirit as we sing "Morning Has Broken." Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the womb. Sweet the rain's new sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness, where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the first light, Eden's soft play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. And now, if you'll join me in reciting the mission and covenant of Beacon. The mission of Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation is to be a welcoming community that embraces diverse thought, belief, and builds a just, peaceful, and compassionate world. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in kindness. Thus do we covenant. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabe. Now's the time in our service when you're invited to lift up a personal joy or sorrow in the supportive fellowship of this community. While we're apart, we're still sharing joys and sorrows. And please email those to me at my minister address by Thursday so we can include them in the service. We do have some joys and sorrows this week that were shared with me. First, I'm going to drop a stone for Dennis and Teresa, remembering Dennis's brother-in-law, Bill, who recently passed away in Missouri. I also received a sorrow from Kevin, who's grieving his dear friend and Lion Club's member, Bruce. He tells me that Bruce was a lifelong resident of Flagstaff and shared many fascinating stories of growing up in our town during the 30s and 40s, including making statewide news when he was 7 years old, when he got lost on a hunting trip with his dad and spent nearly 3 weeks on the Mondolin Rim, surviving on rainwater puddles and berries, till he eventually found another hunting party. So this is for Bruce and for Kevin, who's grieving him. Nancy and Dick donated the beautiful flowers I think you can see in the picture over here on my left last week for our service, and I didn't get a chance to lift up their beautiful gift. They donated these flowers in memory of both of their mothers, who died on the same day many years ago, which actually led them to meet one another. It's a great story, and this is for them. I'm going to put in a stone for all of us holding on to hope, trying to control our fear, and sustaining our lives during this challenging and isolating time. A stone of gratitude for all the frontline workers who are keeping our world afloat in a sea of uncertainty. A stone for all those in the world whose suffering right now is overshadowed by the coronavirus, but are still out there, needing our love and support, particularly the children of the world. And a stone of joy for Flagstaff sunshine and blue skies and the ability to stay connected via technology and social media. We're learning it does have its upside and also its learning curve. We're discovering that as well. And then finally, one stone for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken because they're either too tender or too private to share. Let us remember that everyone is fighting their own private battle. We know not what it is, but because we're human, we know it to be true. So let us be kind, compassionate, flexible, and forgiving with one another. Now I invite you to put your feet on the floor and uncross your arms and come with me into a quiet meditative place. Each week we breathe together in the sanctuary. We'll breathe together today in this virtual service, this virtual sanctuary that we're sharing together. So I invite you to close your eyes and, as I said, sit up straight with your feet on the floor and your arms uncrossed, and just breathe in. Breathe in 4 beats through your nose and 4 beats out through your mouth, creating a feeling of spaciousness from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, feeling yourself open up and become more spacious. Just so many things that we need to feel spacious about these days. Hope, courage, companionship, just feeling all right about being in the world and also feeling connected. So stop and feel, breathe, and allow. Let's be silent and just breathe together. Breath is your portable shrine. No matter where you go, you always have your breath. Breathing in, you can feel love. Breathing out, you can feel peace. Breathing in, you can feel fear. Breathing out, you can feel safe. Stop and feel, breathe, and allow.
Find a stillness, hold the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find the harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
Our reading today is by my colleague, the Reverend Victoria Safford. It's called Set in Stone. And she writes, in a cemetery once, an old one in New England, I found a strangely soothing epitaph. The name of the deceased and her dates had been scoured away by wind and rain, but there was a carving of a tree with roots and branches, a classic 19th century motif, and among them, these words: she attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. At first, this seemed to me a little meager, a little stingy on the part of her survivors, but I wrote it down and I've thought about it ever since. And now I can't imagine a more proud or satisfying legacy. She attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. Every day, I stand in danger of being struck by lightning and having the obituary in the local paper say, for all the world to see, She attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant, meaningless details. How would you like your obituary to read? He got all the dishes washed and dried before playing with his children in the evening. She balanced her checkbook with meticulous precision and never missed a day of work, but she missed a lot of sunsets, missed a lot of love, missed a lot of risk, missed a lot, but her money was in order. She answered all her calls, all her emails, all her voicemail, but along the way, she forgot to answer the call to service and compassion and forgiveness, first and foremost of herself. He gave and forgave sparingly, without radical intention, without passion or conviction. They could not or would not hear the calling of their heart. How will it read? How does it read? And if you had to name a few worthy things to attend to well and faithfully, what would they be? I wonder, what would they be? Gabe?
And now this week's musical interlude is Faithful or A Few Things by Glenn Burley. You must be faithful over a few things, to be ruler over many things. Be thou faithful unto death, and God will give you a crown of life, and love will give you a crown of life.
Thank you, Gabe. Very fitting, because my sermon today is also called Faithful Over a Few Things, drawn for exactly the same Matthew passage as that beautiful gospel song that we just heard. Faithful over a few things, a sermon for Easter for Unitarian Universalists. I spotted the first sign as we crested a small hill on Skillet Road, a rural byway that runs between Owasco, one of the New York Finger Lakes, and the rolling farmlands of Cuyahoga County. The sign was professionally printed, and it swung on a wrought iron rail alongside an American flag with this plea: "Create in me a clean heart, O Lord." Psalm 51. I smirked. It was August of 2015 on a fine, sunny vacation day, perfect for a bike ride. As we cruised right along Gillings Road, the second sign came into view, painted in confident letters on a barnwood sandwich board at the intersection. "Close your Facebook and open your faith book," it exhorted us. In a similar vein, on the other side of the sandwich board, it promised that God answered Knee-mail. Clever, Still, I roll. We passed an Amish homestead called God's Blessing Farm with a strapping young man baling hay with his shirt sleeves rolled up, and he waved, and we waved back. And then just a little further down the road, a whitewashed church appeared with this enticement for its vacation Bible camp: "Make Jesus your BFF this summer." Honestly, I thought. Moments later, while pedaling along Fleming Scipio Town Line Road, the sky absolutely opened up, releasing a fierce summer shower. But luckily, this clearly being a bit of a Bible Belt bubble, we made it under the covered entryway of the unadorned Scipio Community Church just up ahead before getting utterly drenched. And what did the sign say in front of this unexpected refuge? It said, "I was a stranger and you sheltered me." I audibly gasped. It wasn't that we were in fact strangers and they sheltered us, although that was notable and true and a pretty cool coincidence. Or was it more than a random coincidence, I wondered? Was it a sign, a kind of cosmic comeuppance? I sat on a well-worn pew that had been set outside the door, eating my Cliff Bar with a lump in my throat, admitting to myself that I had been cruising along with a spiritually snooty attitude. I mean, aren't these the people with outdated, unsophisticated beliefs? The ones we wish would stop clinging to such religious hoo-ha? Perhaps. Yet, on that drizzly day in August, on a country road with nowhere else to take cover, those silly scripture lovers pierced my uppity liberal veneer with simple kindness. I thought back to the first sign and whispered softly into the rain, "Create in me a clean heart, Spirit of life." And I meant it. For folks who claim to be open-minded, progressive, and guardians of our fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, we Unitarian Universalists can be downright judgmental and condescending at times on the topic of faith. When the subject arises, the reactions can be swift and dismissive. We're skeptics here. We cherish our doubts. Faith in what? Faith. Posh posh. That's just for unreasonable people. Show me something you can prove. Yet I can tell you from experience, both as a seeker and a minister, there are faithful people at Beacon and out there in the YouTube UU universe. Now, this may not be grandma's old-time faith exactly. In fact, we know it isn't. But it is faith, nevertheless, free-form, rich in history, highly personal, and ripe with possibilities for spiritual deepening. During my tenure at the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh, 2 congregants approached me to support their effort to plant a chapter of the UU Christian Fellowship there, and I encouraged them to plunge ahead. I heard lots of snarky comments from some corners when the invitation went out for this group, along the lines of, "What are we doing with a Christian group here at our church? A Christian group? Egads." As gently as I could, I reminded these naysayers of our roots as liberal Protestant denominations, and that one of our 6 sources draws on Jewish and Christian teachings, which call us to respond to God's love by loving our neighbors as ourselves. And I added, and I underscore this point today, that in order to fulfill our essential calling as a place of sacred purpose, to truly call ourselves free thinkers, we need to affirm, not merely tolerate, the presence of a UU Christian group as readily as we do a humanist group, a pagan group, a chapter of UUs for Jewish Awareness, a Sufi poetry salon, the Atheist League, or a Buddhist meditation circle. As expected, that UU Christian Fellowship started very small, but it has grown to more than 12 mighty, faithful souls. And they believe they've created a space for a particular brand of Unitarian Universalist faith to flourish. And I salute them. This being Easter Sunday, I have Jesus on my mind too, not Christ, the risen Lord. He is not, nor has he ever been, a part of my theology or belief system as a Jewishly raised UU, but rather the humanitarian Jesus, the one I've spoken about before, the one I talked about last week, the one embraced by early Unitarians who had eschewed the divine Christ in the early 1800s. Jesus, born Joshua ben Joseph, the preacher, the prophet, the rebellious rabbi, the healer, the wise weaver of parables, the Jesus that shows up at First Unitarian Church in Pittsburgh for those UU Christians on Sunday morning. Yeshua, the fully human man who rode into Jerusalem on a donkey 2,000 plus years ago, to waving palms and pageantry to fulfill a very complex destiny. That entry scene is one of the most epic in films, recounting the Passion story. You could maybe think about Ben-Hur or The Greatest Story Ever Told, and these Hollywood classics are eye-popping and full of drama. But a couple years ago, during Lent, I was drawn to a slightly different take on the Easter story. That year's Christian movie that was playing at a theater near me called Risen. So I arrived in the dark, mostly empty theater on a Tuesday afternoon for a viewing because it was billed as a thriller in which a Roman tribune named Clavius, is tasked with leading a manhunt for the missing body of Jesus. This same tribune, the same person, had overseen the crucifixion. Now, one reviewer called this movie the resurrection story told in the voice of a non-believer. Now, how could I resist a faith journey told in the voice of a non-believer, especially when I had a Unitarian Universalist sermon to write for Easter? So, spoiler alert, Pontius Pilate, Clavius's boss, realizes that if the tale of a risen Jesus spreads, his following will only grow. First, he says, find his body and bring it to me. But this proves impossible, of course. The tomb is empty, the ropes holding it closed, virtually blown apart, and Clavius is bewildered. But then, after several twists and turns, the sleuth meets Jesus himself in a small hut, surrounded by his joy-filled ashram of disciples, and he can hardly believe his eyes. How can this be? How can I be seeing him here? But he can't go back. He has failed miserably, and this means certain death for him. So what does he do? He joins Jesus and his disciples on their trek through the desert. Now, the risen Christ of this film is the perfect blissed out Zen master, even sitting cross-legged on a rock, meditating and spouting Buddha-like aphorisms like, be ye lights unto yourselves. Now, I found this more authentic than many depictions because we get a Jesus with heart. Now, at least the actor portraying him looks like he could be from Nazareth. He's olive-skinned and dark-haired. He doesn't look like he's from Stockholm. But the 12 actors who portrayed his disciples, they all look like Ashkenazi Eastern European Jews who have been plucked from a nearby touring company of Fiddler on the Roof. Now, even so, the film delivers a valuable and memorable message. Clavius actually sees Jesus heal a leper, provide fish for his tribe, appear and disappear, and preach love of his neighbor. He even observes Jesus's resurrection in this film, and he must confront the meaning of faith. It's unavoidable, though something new and strange for him. At one point, Jesus asks him, "What do you seek, Clavius? Certainty? Peace? A day without death?" He's not sure. In the end, Clavius, on his own, after the disciples have scattered to spread the gospel, He tells his tale to a shepherd he encounters in a desert hut. The shepherd listens and then says, "And you believe this? You believe this?" To which the former tribune responds, "I believe I will never be the same." We live in a strikingly different context than these characters, but we too can be transformed by experience, and we can ask ourselves what we seek in our faith journeys: certainty, peace, a day without death. Peace, yes. Of course, we seek peace for ourselves and for the people of the world, for Standing Rock, for Ferguson, for Syria. A day without death. If only this was possible on this cruel and violent planet, especially amidst this frightening pandemic with the coronavirus. But yes, a day without death is worth envisioning and holding onto for Aleppo and Detroit and the Sudan and here in northern Arizona. Certainty, it's an unlikely wish, at least religiously, because that's why many of us chose Unitarian Universalism in the first place, one which intentionally invites us, expects us to explore faith without certainty. But don't be mistaken, this is not an easy route. It's difficult and exacting to craft a deep and authentic faith without certainty. There are days when I struggle with this, and I am nearly envious of those folks in the Scipio Community Church who rest in their rock-solid beliefs, memorized prayers, and clear doctrines. They've embraced certainty, and that looks mighty appealing some days. It would be one less thing to worry about, right? Just pick up my faith book and send some email. But that anxiety passes, usually quite quickly, as this is not my journey, nor the journey that many of us UUs have chosen to take. And regardless of the rigor, this liberally religious road of open vistas is worth traveling as we become good and faithful servants in our own unique ways. My colleague, the Reverend Peter Fredericks, has preached that we all believe in something. It may even be the conviction that there is nothing to believe in, but that is a faith statement in and of itself. There is blind faith, and there is another kind of faith that comes from experience. The kind that does not just accept what we're told, but says, "Show me." The faith that grows out of our doubts and our questioning. A UU faith, a living faith, a hopeful faith grounded in the real world. Back in 1979, the then UUA president, Paul Carnes, said that our form of hope accepts the essential tragic character of life, the sin and misery of the world, and then somehow sees through this. This is more challenging for us, he writes, because we choose not to begin with the promises of God or the notion of predestination about salvation through a savior. That's the way it is with us liberally religious folks, he says, and so be it. But he further suggests, and I really lift this up today, life is so great a blessing that every tomorrow we can project, every time we aspire or dream, every time we set our alarm clock in faith that the sun will come up again, we bear witness to our optimism. These words inspire me today as we hold on to hope and optimism while we shelter at home for safety. We strive to remain faithful to the promises of tomorrow, perhaps with a heightened gratitude for what life offers us in this broken and hurting world, aching for a unique form of resurrection. My colleague, Peter Friedrichs, he added that understandably, as religious liberals, we may be grasping at some form of faith right now. Friends, remember and take strength from the notion that when our childhood faith lets us down, to still believe in something is a hard-won victory. Our life experience can shake us to the core, but they are bound to mold and shape and inform our faith. Welcome this exploration of what grounds you, what rounds you, and what confounds you. The human Jesus, he clearly practiced and examined faith because we hear him questioning it on the cross. Father, why have you forsaken me? And remember that in that film, Risen, Claudius actually sees the evidence, a resurrected Christ, and he's still struggling with his faith. To focus on our unbounded faith journeys, we can decide to be patient and to be faithful over a few carefully curated, worthy things. As a result, we can gain a sense of mastery and depth, and we too can receive a crown of life. And if we choose well, we may experience a type of resurrection into our best selves, our highest selves, our most spiritually attuned selves, our most loving selves, courageous and joyful with a sense of always becoming. That is the Easter faith of Unitarian Universalism. In the reflection you heard earlier, Victoria Safford, she tells the tale of one such woman who attended well and faithfully to a few worthy things. It was the epitaph on her tombstone, which seemed stingy and meager to Stafford at first, until she came to view it as a satisfying legacy. This quote about being faithful over a few things, drawn from Matthew 25, stirs her up, and she laments that every day I stand in danger of being struck by lightning and having my obituary read. She attended frantically and ineffectually to a great many unimportant, meaningless details. She goes on to enumerate them, answering emails and listening to voicemails rather than the calling of her heart. Considering her own epitaph, she muses, how will it read? How does it read? And if you had to name a few worthy things to which to attend well and faithfully, I wonder what would they be? So on this Easter morning, I ask you to ask yourself, good and faithful servants, what would they be? What might they be? Create in us a clean heart, spirit of life, and help us to watch for the signs. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
And now, if you'll rise and body your spirit as we sing Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Thank you, Gabe. Every week in our service, we take an offering that supports our congregation and our community partners. During this time when we're together apart, we're also taking an offering. You can go to our website, beaconuu.com, and make a secure donation through the Banco application. You can also send a check to us at Beacon at our address in Flagstaff. And we are grateful for any way you might support our congregation now and in the future. We also come together at the end of our service and hold hands. Right now, we're being encouraged not to have any kind of contact, but we can virtually hold hands and imagine ourselves in community with one another. So I invite you to do that right now. You put out your hands as if you were holding hands with the people of Beacon. And say with me the unison benediction in your order of service. Now go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings. Thank you for being with us today. Happy Easter. We are Beacon, always connected. Blessed be, blessed we. Amen.
Yes, thank you for coming and joining in us with worship today, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It's been a joy to sing with you, and let's do it next week.